High ceilings, mahogany paneling, and a perceptible aura of power were all features that characterized the courtroom, which was a vast and intimidating setting. Judge Harold Grayson, a guy in his late 50s who was known for having a reputation for being as sharp-tongued as he was sharp-minded, sat on the bench, his penetrating eyes sweeping the room. He was notorious for his no-nonsense approach and his propensity to embarrassing naive attorneys who dared to enter his courtroom. He was recognized for both of these qualities. According to him, the legal system was a battlefield, and the only people who deserved to emerge victorious were those who were powerful or well-connected. Here comes Ethan Carter, a young lawyer who has just graduated from law school and is 26 years old. Ethan was tall, with a tangle of black hair that was difficult to control, and he wore a suit that seemed to have been his elder brother's without permission. His preparation for this case, which was his first big trial, had taken up all of the previous 3 months, and he was keen to demonstrate his worth. Maria Lopez, a single mother, was his client, and she was trying to preserve custody of her son after her ex-husband, a rich businessman, had filed for full custody of the kid, saying that she was unsuitable to parent the boy. A smirk formed on Judge Grayson's lips as he arched an eyebrow, and a grin appeared on his face as Ethan approached the stage. "Well, well," he drawled, his tone dripping with contempt as he spoke. Another young lawyer who is just starting out and attempting to establish a reputation for himself. "Mr. Carter, let us hope that you have completed your assigned assignment." This is no longer a law school classroom. The gallery was filled with laughing, and Ethan could feel the heat creeping up his cheeks. On the other hand, he made sure his tie was perfect, took a few deep breaths, and then started his opening speech. Unfortunately, Judge Grayson cut him off very quickly, despite the fact that his voice was steady. When the judge approached Mr. Carter, he leaned forward and said, "Are you aware that you are supposed to address the court with respect? Is it possible that they failed to teach you something at your very small law school?" Ethan took a momentary pause, his pulse racing. He was aware that this was a test. "Your Honor," he continued with a forceful tone in his voice, "I want to apologize for any harm that I may have caused. I am here to represent my client to the best of my ability, and I intend to do so with the utmost respect for this court," the attorney said. A sarcastic chuckle came from Judge Grayson's mouth as he laughed. He stated this while reclining back in his chair and said, "We'll see about that. Go ahead, senior counselor. However, you should make an effort to stay up." The proceedings of the trial started, and it was immediately apparent that Ethan was going to be facing more than simply a formidable adversary. An experienced attorney by the name of Margaret Hayes, who is well known for her cutthroat strategies and flawless record, served as the leader of the legal team representing the ex-housewife. Ethan's case was torn apart by her, and she questioned not just his facts, but also his witnesses and even his own ability. It seemed as if Judge Grayson took pleasure in every mistake that Ethan made, and he often interjected with disparaging comments. "Mr. Carter," the judge said at one point, "are you certain that you are in the correct courtroom? There is no such thing as a debating club here." Then, Ethan was not going to be shaken. Innumerable evenings had been spent by him looking over case files, doing research on precedents, and becoming ready for every conceivable argument available. He was well versed in the law, and he had faith in the cause that his client was fighting for. He started to alter the tide of the situation slowly, but steadily. While Ethan was doing the cross-examination, he saw something peculiar in the evidence of the ex-husband. Ethan had discovered proof that the guy had been engaged in multiple dubious business ventures and had a history of irregular conduct. The man claimed that he had a stable family environment, but Ethan had discovered information that contradicted his claims. The objection was raised by Margaret Hayes when Ethan presented this proof. However, Judge Grayson overruled her, indicating that his attention was aroused. The judge remarked, "Let's hear it, Mr. Carter," with a tone that was less sarcastic than at the beginning. But this had better be good. The credibility of the ex-husband was gradually undermined by Ethan as he continued to carry out his plan. In addition to presenting bank documents and emails, he also provided a witness who testified about the man's difficult temperament. Following Ethan's conclusion, there was complete silence in the courtroom. Even Judge Grayson seemed pleased, despite his best efforts to conceal his feelings. At the time when it was time for concluding arguments, Ethan stood straight, his self-assurance remaining unshaken. "Your Honor," he started, "this case cannot be reduced to a simple custody dispute when it comes to a kid who deserves to grow up in a loving and secure home. It is about doing what is best for them. The fact that Maria Lopez, who is my client, is a dedicated mother who is willing to do everything for her kid has been shown time and time again without fail. The evidence that is presented against her ex-husband speak for themselves. This court should find in favor of my client and enable her to continue giving the love and care that her kid deserves. I encourage this court to make this decision." There was a huge outpouring of applause in the courtroom, and even Judge Grayson seemed to be affected. In an attempt to establish order, he cleared his throat and pounded his gavel. "This court will take a brief recess before rendering its decision," he stated, while maintaining a tone that was unusually solemn. Following the resumption of the court session, Judge Grayson presented his verdict. According to what he stated, this court rules in favor of the respondent, Maria Lopez, after careful consideration of the evidence that was presented as evidence. The mother will continue to have full custody of the child. With a sigh of relief, Maria broke into tears and wrapped her arms around Ethan. Judge Grayson yelled out to Ethan as they were leaving the courtroom that they were in. "Mr. Carter," he replied, his tone becoming more subdued, "you have the potential to succeed. Don't throw it away." With a little grin flickering over his lips, Ethan gave a slight nod. "I am grateful to you, Your Honor. I will not." From that point forward, Ethan Carter became well known as the young attorney who had successfully challenged the intimidating Judge Grayson and emerged victorious against him. And as for Judge Grayson, he never again misjudged a lawyer who was just starting out in the field. In point of fact, he often shared the story of Ethan Carter with other judges as a didactic example. "Never laugh at a young lawyer," he would say. "You never know when they might surprise you." Within the realm of law, the news of Ethan Carter's win spread like wildfire across the community, the tale of the young, tenacious attorney who had defied the famously severe Judge Grayson and prevailed against a formidable legal team became the stuff of folklore. He had gone against a formidable legal team. There was a flurry of activity among reporters, and Ethan's phone was constantly ringing with calls from prospective customers. However, Ethan maintained his modesty and his steady concentration. From his perspective, the case had never been about celebrity or glory. Rather, it had been about ensuring that Maria Lopez and her son get justice. Maria, who was beyond the ability to express her gratitude, became an outspoken supporter of Ethan, spreading the word about his commitment and ability. She even established a modest scholarship fund in his honor to provide financial assistance to prospective attorneys who come from disadvantaged homes. She told anybody who would listen, "Ethan didn't just win my case," and everybody believed her. "He provided a future for both my kid and myself. The man is a hero." Over the course of the proceedings, Judge Grayson found himself thinking about the trial more than he would have liked to admit. For as long as he could remember, he had taken great satisfaction in his severe manner, which he believed was essential in order to preserve order and respect in his courtroom. The calm dedication and unshakable regard for the law that Ethan exhibited, on the other hand, had the effect of touching him. Grayson questioned, for the first time in years, if his harshness had ever genuinely served justice, or whether it had merely been a cover for his own anxieties. This was the first time he had ever questioned this question. The judge, Grayson, did something that had never been done before a few weeks after the trial. He extended an invitation to Ethan to attend a private meeting in his chambers. When Ethan arrived, he was not welcomed by the snarky and dismissive judge he had seen in court. Rather, he was received by a guy who seemed to be considering something contemplative. Grayson started out by saying, "Mr. Carter," while indicating for Ethan to take a seat. "I owe you an apology. During your trial, I was unduly severe, and I failed to take into account how good you are." That was some kind of error. Astonished, Ethan gave a hesitant nod in response. "I am grateful to you, Your Honor. For that, I am grateful. On the other hand, I never took it personally. I was aware that I needed to demonstrate my worth." The increased respect that Grayson had for Ethan prompted him to sit back in his chair and observe him. "You went above and beyond that. You brought to my memory the reasons that eventually led me to become a judge. Because of the nature of this line of work, it is simple to get cynical and forget that the law is about individuals and not authority alone. Carter, you already possess a unique talent. Don't give it up to anybody or anything. You deserve it more than anything." Both men engaged in a lengthy conversation during which they covered a wide range of topics, including the complexities of the legal system and the difficulties of maintaining one's integrity in a system that often seemed to be biased against the underdog. By the time they had finished talking, an improbable mentoring relationship had been established. Once upon a time, Judge Grayson was Ethan's most vehement critic. However, when Ethan's career started to rise, Judge Grayson became one of his most enthusiastic supporters, providing him with counsel and advice. Although Ethan was successful in the Lopez case, this was just the beginning. Over the course of the subsequent several years, he took on cases that were progressively more difficult and high-profile, tirelessly advocating for individuals who were unable to advocate for themselves. He earned a reputation for his rigorous preparation, his ability to think quickly on his feet, and his unyielding dedication to protecting the rights of others. Empathy, on the other hand, was what really distinguished him from others. He had the capacity to connect with his customers and comprehend the challenges they faced on a very human level. A group of manufacturing workers who had been unlawfully sacked after revealing dangerous working conditions was one of the most prominent cases that he had ever worked on. It was a case in which Ethan was put against one of the most powerful businesses in the nation, which had a legal staff that seemed to be invincible. However, Ethan battled with unrelenting determination, relying on the knowledge he had gained from Judge Grayson, as well as his own lifetime experiences. It was revealed to him that there was evidence of corporate cover-ups, intimidation of whistleblowers, and a disturbing disregard for the safety of employees. A historic win for workers' rights was achieved when the jury decided in favor of the workers, which caused the case to garner national attention and garner national headlines. The accomplishments of Ethan were not overlooked. In spite of the fact that he was presented with partnership opportunities at famous law firms, he declined them and instead decided to establish his own legal business. His goal was to remain faithful to his origins and to continue advocating for those who were marginalized and in need of a voice. Those who had been harmed were able to find not only legal assistance, but also hope in his office, which turned into a haven for those who had been abused. In the case of Judge Grayson, the meeting he had with Ethan kicked off the beginning of a transition in his own personality. His newfound sense of humility and compassion allowed him to embrace his duty on the bench with a greater feeling of responsibility. Despite the fact that he continued to uphold his stringent standards, his caustic jabs and gruff manner became more refined. He was noted for his justice and his willingness to give inexperienced attorneys an opportunity. He often used Ethan Carter as an example of why it was vital to look past looks. He became known for his fairness. They continued to communicate with one another, and their relationship progressed from that of a mentor and a protégé to that of something more like two equals. Even further, Grayson extended an invitation to Ethan to deliver a speech at a judicial conference where he discussed the significance of having empathy and honesty in the legal profession. Every person who was there was left with a profound and long-lasting impression as a result of the impactful occasion. After a number of years had passed, Judge Grayson was the one who presided over the ceremony that Ethan Carter underwent in order to become a judge. Friends, family members, and co-workers were all there in the courtroom to see the climax of Ethan's extraordinary journey. The courtroom was crowded with supporters. While Ethan was taking his oath, he glanced out at the gathering, and his eyes fell upon Maria Lopez and her son, who was now a teenager with eyes that were brilliant and shining. He recalled all of the customers he had battled for, all of the fights he had won, and all of the people whose lives he had come into contact with. While addressing the gathering, Judge Grayson spoke with a voice that was rich with passion. The case of Ethan Carter serves as a timely reminder that the law concerns more than simply rules and precedents. People are the focus here. Fairness is the issue here. In addition, it is about never giving up, regardless of how difficult the odds may be. It is beyond a shadow of a doubt that he will serve with the same level of commitment and honesty that has characterized his distinguished career. While Ethan was settling into his seat on the bench, he had a strong feeling of duty as well as appreciation. He was a far cry from the young attorney who had been ridiculed in the courtroom of Judge Grayson. He had reached a great distance. Now, however, he was well aware that his quest was not yet done. More fights needed to be fought, injustices needed to be rectified, and lives needed to be altered. He was prepared for it.